Okay, welcome back to another episode of Third and 23. I'm your host Alex, here to talk college football, talk the uh, week 5 of the college football season, kind of recap what happened, recap how I did with my picks and predictions as far as overall and against the spread, and kind of see what things went wrong. Had a pretty good year up to this point, but can't deny the fact that against the spread for week 5, things did not go my way. Had my first losing weekend against the spread, at least. Overall, I still think I did pretty decently, but sometimes you want to hit on these ATS picks, because the bigger payout over the overall, which is strictly money line selections, right? But anyways, so without further ado, let's kind of recap how I did, what went right, what went wrong, uh, and let's get into it. So first off, starting off, uh, Clemson Syracuse. So this was a game that I did do against the spread. I said I'll take Clemson. I'm sorry, I said I would take Syracuse lane or with the 7 points. So I'll take Syracuse +7. But I was gonna take Clemson overall. I was going based off the history. These guys have played tough games against each other the past couple years. I thought Garrett Schrader with his legs would be able to make enough plays to keep things moving for Syracuse to the point where, while I didn't think Syracuse was going to win the game, I thought they'd be able to keep it close enough, right? And while I like how Cape Klubnik has been really growing every week for Clemson, I just thought this is a game that would be kind of a tight one, especially with letdown from last week's big game against Florida State, where Clemson really actually dominated it, but they came up short, right? So in this game, Clemson was kind of in control for pretty much the whole game. They won 31-14, so they did cover. So this is going to go down as a loss for me. This is a game that Clemson ended up going for 390. Cade had another good game, 263. I talked about last week about how Syracuse run defense has quietly been pretty good. They did a pretty good job against Clemson. Will Shipley and Phil Maffa did a good job there. Um, but the big thing was the defensive front of Clemson really controlled the game, right? Had 5 sacks. Garrett Schrader did escape a few times and made some plays, but not enough. And as far as like how the spread went, this was 24-14 in the fourth quarter. Still pretty competitive game. And Syracuse had the ball, and so you got a chance to go downfield and either get a push if they get a field goal because they need 2 scores, right? Garrett Schrader ends up throwing a pick, and it's pretty much like the last drive of the game for Clemson. They ran it in for a touchdown to win 31-14. So that's pretty much how this game played out. Didn't really have a shot. Had a shot to kind of steal a win on this one against the spread, but this one was a whiff. Just the Clemson, and I said it before, Clemson probably has not probably Clemson has the best players in the ACC. They just haven't had the best coaching, and that's one of the other reasons why I was really leaning towards Syracuse being able to or to cover with the 7, right? But it just didn't happen. So this is one of the and this is like I said, this was a rough weekend for me. So while overall I did hit it, so we'll update that. This is a whiff against the spread. This is a rough weekend for me as far as against the spread. Moving on, let's go to USC Colorado. This is a game that I said I wasn't gonna do. I said that I was absolutely gonna take USC to win this game straight up. But 21.5, I didn't want to lay because I thought Colorado would look better than they did against Oregon when they got kind of bum rushed. This game was at home. They got embarrassed. You got to wipe this stain off of you off of what happened in the Oregon game. And I said I thought USC could win by double digits, but I don't know about 21.5. I don't know about laying that, so I didn't want to lay that on the road in a game where Colorado's kind of licking their wounds. They're going to do something. They don't want to be you don't expect Coach Prom to get embarrassed 2 weeks in a row, right? So he definitely. So I was just gonna stay away from that and just take USC straight up. USC was up in this game 41-14 at one point. They were cooking along. Caleb was doing Caleb things. Looking like he might repeat as Heisman Trophy winner. Honestly, I don't think he will, just because I don't think they'll give it to the same player 2 years in a row. But I mean, he definitely has played well enough to earn that, right? So USC was up in this game 41-14. Caleb was hitting big plays. USC they had like 560 yards. Caleb threw for 406 touchdowns. Um, but give credit to Colorado. These guys didn't quit. It's 41-14. These guys kept coming. They kept coming. They kept coming, and they almost rallied for an amazing comeback. The final score in this was 48-41 USC. Shedeur Sanders just went, he went off. He had 560. I'm sorry, I was looking. Colorado had 560. USC, I mean, they had a lot of yards, but they ended up having 498. So, but yeah, Shedeur Colorado had 564 yards. Shedeur 371 and 4 touchdowns. Shedeur's for real, man. He's putting up work every week, except for the Oregon game, which was kind of a buzzsaw. Man, this guy's putting up work every week. And I know the USC defense, they still got issues. This is how you know the USC defense has issues, is they gave up 193 on the ground at Colorado. And I've talked about it ad nauseum, right? Colorado can't run the ball. They haven't been able to run the ball all year. Now, maybe this is a turnaround, right? Anthony Hankerson, they finally gave him more carries than the other backs, and he ended up getting like 70. It was running tough, and, maybe looks like he could be something. But USC, this game and the last game against Arizona State for USC, man, gotta have some questions, man, because they almost blew it against Arizona State, and they almost blew it against Colorado, and the defense is just, they're getting kind of abused right now. I mean, Arizona State the week before, don't even have a quarterback really worth anything, right? And it's their running back Cam Scatterbo damn near won the game by himself, going all Toby Gerhart out there. This time, Shedeur cooking. Shedeur's not stopping. He almost came back and pulled this off. And it's Omarion Miller, a wide receiver. He hadn't been a major factor for Colorado. This guy had 7 for 196 in this game. So something's, as far as USC's title aspirations, just something to keep note of as we move forward. The USC defense is still looking like a major, major issue. But anyways, as far as my record goes, again, I didn't do this against the spread. I took USC straight up. We hit on that, so that puts us up to 26-11. And I forgot to mention, my top right, if it wasn't self-explanatory, is how I've done overall this season, just making picks straight up, and then how I've done against the spread. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to Florida, Kentucky, right? So this one was a big whiff right here. So this was a game that I did against the spread, as far as an against the spread call, but I took Florida straight up with the money line, right? It said this is a game I'm going to do. Florida had been one of the best run defenses really in college football this season, and so I expected that to continue. I've said that I'm not a believer in Devin Leary. I don't think Devin Leary is a very good quarterback. I thought that he wasn't going to be able to keep his job at NC State, and I'm suspecting maybe he wouldn't be able to keep his job at NC State last year when he got hurt, and maybe that's one of the reasons why he transferred. At Kentucky, he hasn't looked good, in my opinion. And this was another game where, he didn't look good. He went 9 for 20, 69 yards. He did get hurt with some drop passes by his receivers, I'm going to say that. But again, he didn't look good. He had a pick six that was dropped. Jason Marshall dropped a pick six he threw right in his breadbasket. So he didn't have a good game. But it didn't matter because Ray Davis, who I've always liked at running back, liked him at Vandy, like him at Kentucky even more because he's got better players around him. He ran for 298 at almost 11 yards a carry and 3 touchdowns. As a team, Kentucky ran for over 300. Just went to work. Uh, Sorry, just 1 second. And he just went to work, and Florida really had nothing for him till pretty much like the fourth quarter when they finally started to play a little tougher on the against the run. As far as Florida goes, man, it was just more the same. Florida couldn't get Kentucky out of the box, right? Florida ended up Florida's strength is running the ball, but if you go into the box and you stuff them, you got to stretch the defense out, right, to get some running lanes. But couldn't really do that. Florida didn't really run the ball very well. I got the numbers here somewhere. I think they ran for 69 yards. They only ran for 69 yards. Graham Mertz was 25 for 32, 44, but it's a lot of dink, 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 man. He does a lot of dink, dink, dink. I'm not going to say it's all Graham Mertz's fault because I think that's Billy Napier's style is safe, short throws. But Graham Mertz didn't have the greatest game because there were some open receivers out there that he completely didn't look at and really hurt his offense when the game was still in contention. So for both of these teams moving forward, Florida's got a lot to look at themselves because defensively they had been playing well, and this was a game where it's like, damn, is this last year and the year before all over again when the Florida defense was awful? And offensively, this offense has pretty much been like this all season long. It's just not an explosive offense. They can grind you down, but you got to figure something out offensively. If you're not going to stretch the field, you're going to see defenses do the same kind of come at Florida's offense the same way that Kentucky did. So there's some soul searching got to do there. Kentucky, man, don't look now, but Kentucky's 5-0. All right, if Kentucky's 5-0, they should jump into the rankings. I haven't checked the rankings, but they probably did. 5-0, won every game by double digits. So they're looking good. I think they got Georgia upcoming this week, so that'd be something that's definitely going to be on this screen come Friday when I'm making my picks and predictions. But give Kentucky credit. Ray Davis is running hard. I don't know how successful they're going to be with Devin Leary at quarterback because, as I said, I don't trust them. I do like their receivers, but I can't trust him. But I got this wrong overall and against the spread, so let's go ahead and update that. Texas A&M at Arkansas is next. This game was a game that I did do. In fact, I said I'm gonna lay the 6. This might be I think this is the only game I got right this week. I said I'm gonna, as far as against the spread, I said I'm gonna lay the 6. I thought that Texas A&M. I've said since preseason, I thought Texas A&M probably had the best, if not this, has at least the second best defense in the SEC behind Georgia. I think their defense is outstanding. I know the Miami game. I think the Miami game was a dud. I think that's just bad scheme going in that game. Things didn't go right. I think the Aggies' defense is for real. I thought they'd give Arkansas a lot of issues, and they did. Arkansas, KJ Jefferson had a really rough game. He went, 9 for 17 at 132. I mean, Arkansas only had 174 yards, and they got sacked 7 times, and they had I think they had 2. Or A&M had 2 defensive touchdowns, didn't they? Oh no, they had a punt return for a touchdown, and then they had what was it? It was a pick 6 or a fumble that was ran back, right? Yeah, it was a pick 6 in this game. So Texas A&M Aggie defense was flying around. Max Johnson, who I told you I like, man, Max Johnson started off this game well, and then you started to see, well, okay, maybe this is why he didn't win the job. He finished 17 for 28, 210. But he lost 2 fumbles. He threw a pick 6. Now, the pick 6 wasn't his fault. The receivers had a miscommunication on the play. They both looked like they didn't know what they were doing. And as a wide receiver screen pass right to the Arkansas DB, he ran it back for a touchdown. But Max Johnson had 2 fumbles in the second half also. He pretty much set up 16 points, if you're including that pick 6. Set up 16 points for Arkansas, really kept them in the game. That's something to note going forward. I thought Evan Stewart also got banged up in this game. So that's something also to keep your eyes on if you're an Aggie fan. For Arkansas, Rocket Sanders did come back. I'm a big fan of his, but he was. These guys were down the whole game, so he wasn't a big factor. He only finished with like 34 yards or something like that. Didn't get the ball that much either. But let's see how he looks going forward, getting back into the. But anyways, so this is one that we'll go ahead and update our overall, which was a hit, and our against the spread. Whoops, was a hit. And so let's move on to Georgia at Auburn. 14.5. I laid the 14.5. I know it's a rivalry game. I know it's on the road. But I just didn't believe in Auburn whatsoever. I don't think their offense is very good. I know that this is kind of like a mulligan year for Hugh Freeze. He's got to get his. I think Hugh Freeze is a good coach. He's just got to get his guys, and then you'll see Auburn, I think, start to turn things around. But in this game against the defending national champs, two-time national champs, I thought the Arkansas defense would shut these guys down, and the Georgia defense would shut these guys down, and the Georgia offense would do enough to win this game by 17. And that's not what happened. Auburn's offense, they didn't do much. They had barely had 300 yards, and they were 2 for 12 on third down. So I was calling it on that one. Peyton Thorne, 10 for 19, 82 yards and a pick. He did not play well. Robbie Ashford also played today, but as a team, they had 219 on the ground, and Peyton Thorne, this was giving Georgia a lot of problems. Peyton Thorne and Robbie Ashford on that QB spread option. When these guys were pulling it, man, these guys were taking off, picking up yardage. Off of QB runs, Peyton Thorne and Robbie Ashford combined for 125 of that 219 on the ground. And that's what was keeping Auburn in the game. That and the defense that was playing well for 3 quarters before things finally broke, right? The final score in this game, by the way, was 27-20. Oh, sorry, I meant to tell you. The final score in that Texas A&M game, which was a cover, was 34-22, I believe. But so the final score in this game was 27-20, but Georgia really didn't get anything going until the fourth quarter. They had 420 yards in this game, 275 in the fourth quarter, right? Carson Beck, 23 for 33, 313 yards. But it was in the fourth quarter when we started to hit off Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers had 8 for 157 in this game, and it seemed like nearly all of it was in the fourth quarter. He went off and really kind of put the Georgia Bulldogs on his back to get this win. This came down to the end, kind of a later touchdown in the fourth quarter for Georgia to give them the 27-20 lead, and then the defense was able to hold on. But again, Georgia starting slow in this game. This was a tight game against what I think is probably an inferior opponent to them, right? They don't really have the talent to keep up with these guys. I mean, Auburn's offense was just QB runs, you know what I'm saying? But so I don't know, man. Something's up with Georgia, but they haven't gone in against an opponent yet to really test them to see if something's up or if they're just not giving full effort for 4 quarters against these guys. But regardless, let's update the overall as we hit on that. Moving on, Kansas and Texas. This is a game that I said I was going to stay away from because I thought Kansas was a pretty sneaky good team. It should be noted, so when I did this video on Friday, I didn't know that Jalen Daniels would miss the game. Looks like he was kind of a game time scratch, right? Not sure if that would have changed my mind. For all we know, the spread would have changed, right? But Texas ended up winning this 40-14, so they covered. Texas was up 20-14 in the third quarter. This was looking like a close game, but it was mainly because of Texas miscues. Missed a couple field goals. They had to settle for field goals a couple times that they hit when they were in the red zone, and they could have really put Kansas away early. Texas had 660 yards in this game. I mean, they went to work. Quinn Ewers had a great game. He had over 300. I told you guys before about Jonathan Brooks, man. He's sneaky good. I mean, people don't really know about him like that, but he's sneaky good. He ran for 218 and 2 touchdowns. I mean, he can shake tackles. He can break tackles. They did a great job on the ground. And defensively, Kansas, I mean, they shut Kansas down. They gave up 260, and Kansas converted 0 third downs for the game. Jason Beans had to start at quarterback for Kansas. He's played a lot at KU. Honestly, I think he's a pretty good backup to have. He has great wheels. Uh, but in this game, the Texas defense really just shut these guys down, man. They shut these guys down, and that's good for Texas moving forward because defense was a bigger question than their offense, right? So if their defense is coming along with their offense, Texas is going to continue looking like the college football playoff team I predicted them to be at the beginning of the season. So let's go ahead and update our overall there. And let's move on to LSU Ole Miss and what was the wildest game of the weekend. The final score in this one was Ole Miss 55, LSU 49. And this was another game I said I was going to do. And I said LSU is good enough to win this game by 3 because I thought it was going to be a tight game. I thought both offenses would do work considering the secondary for LSU and considering the defense for Ole Miss and considering the two offenses, right, for both teams. And LSU was actually up 49-40 in this game late and still found a way to lose 55-49. It was crazy. So if you watch this game, it looked like it almost, I don't want to say routes on air because guys were there to be in the kind of try to defend the ball. But the craziest thing for me was it seemed like every play, nobody could tackle. Like, no, for either team, it seemed like nobody was capable of tackling. I don't know what the hell was going on. It was crazy to see this game. But anyways, yeah, so Ole Miss ended up having 700 yards of offense in this game. I mean, just went crazy. Big bounce back from that embarrassing performance against Alabama, which it was embarrassing to score 10 points against Alabama's worst team since Nick Saban's first year. Ole Miss had a bunch of there's some questionable officiating in this game too. I'm gonna say LSU had some penalties go in their favor to kind of help them out in this game, and LSU had a late touchdown to someone. I can't remember who it was. I thought that wasn't a catch. I thought it was pretty clear that he didn't control the ball until he was out of bounds. I can't remember the receiver's name, but I thought LSU got away with that. I think the officiating in this game wasn't the best. If it was called cleaner, it wouldn't shock me if Ole Miss won this game by double digits. But yeah, this was a crazy game. Jackson Dart went 26 for 39, 389, and 4 touchdowns. Jaden Daniels went 27 for 36, 414, and 4 touchdowns. He also ran for like around 100 yards. In fact, Jackson Dart ran for like 50 yards and a touchdown. Both of these QBs were playmaking out there. Both of them were slinging. And this was just a wild, wild shootout that we came close to covering on a 2.5 at 49-40 with just few minutes left in the game and ended up losing 55-49. Man, that happens. It wasn't my night. And this is when I got wrong on the overall and against the spread. So I got to eat both of those. And that's puts my record there against the spread at 11-9. And if I'm looking at, yeah, that's the last game I did against the spread. So, but anyways, moving on. So these next 3 I just did straight up. I did overall. I didn't do these games as far as against the spread picks. So Notre Dame at Duke. This is one I was definitely staying away from because Notre Dame's coming off a big game against Ohio State where they lost in the final second. I didn't know if they could get up for a road game in Wallace Wade against a very dangerous Duke team. And then, I didn't want to pick Duke simply for the fact that I believe Notre Dame is the better team between the two. But just I don't know. I didn't know if Notre Dame was going to have 100% focus in this game, right? The spread was 6, and if you laid it, congrats, because Notre Dame did cover. 21-14 was the final. This is another game that went down to the very end. Notre Dame's in these classics, man. They had a 4th and 16. Sam Hartman had a 4th and 16, down 14-13, and he had a big time scramble for the first down in the final minute of the game. Huge play made by Sam Hartman there. Um, he had a good game, 15 for 32, 22. Not his best, but a good game, and he led that game-winning touchdown. Notre Dame ran the ball well, almost for about 160. But Duke ran the ball well too, damn near 190. So both teams ran the ball well. Riley Leonard didn't really have his best game, and this is something to note if you're making picks with Duke moving forward. Riley Leonard on basically the last play of the game, because after Notre Dame scored, Duke had a chance for one last gasp, and Riley Leonard got hurt on basically the last play of the game. They're calling it a high ankle sprain. You know how those are; those take a while to heal. So we'll see how that heals and how soon he gets back moving forward. But this was a big win for Notre Dame, big bounce back win against a pretty dangerous football team in Duke. So we're gonna go ahead and update that, and that is gonna be our 30th dub of the season. Let's move on to South Carolina, Tennessee. This is another game I didn't want to do. I thought this was a game that both teams were going to be able to score some points. And I was like, I don't really want to do it because I'm not trusting Tennessee right now. I'm going to take Tennessee straight up because Knoxville at night, man, that's got to be tough. Knoxville at night is tough, and that's why I was leaning Tennessee. I also, while I used to think South Carolina is the worst team in the SEC, I'll be willing to admit they might not be the worst team in the SEC, but I don't believe they're a very good team. Tennessee won this game 41-20. This wasn't really competitive either throughout. Tennessee had almost 500 yards. Joe Milton had a decent game, 239. He had a couple picks, though, some ugly picks, too, that ended potential scoring opportunities. These guys could have got over 50 points. But on the ground, this is where the money was made in this game. Tennessee's offensive line absolutely destroyed the South Carolina front. They ended up having 238 on the ground, but Tennessee just absolutely destroyed the front. Tennessee running backs played well, sure, but there were holes to run through. That's what really ended this game. And then on the defensive side too, again, they owned the line. The defensive front owned the line of scrimmage. I think they had like 6 sacks. Rattler got sacked 6 times. He was running for his life. There wasn't really much South Carolina did offensively in this game, outside of like one home run carry they had. To note, other injuries. We're in the time now where injuries are going to start to show up. Brew McCoy got hurt in this game, and sounds like he got lost for the year. So that's a really tough loss. I'm a big fan of Brew McCoy. I think he's a really good player. So that's a really tough loss for Tennessee. We'll see how they look moving forward with Squirrel Wright and the other guys they got. Puts me at 31. And then finally, Washington, Arizona. This is another game that I stayed away from. I said, sometimes these national title contenders, at least guys who appear to be national title contenders, they have a game where they don't look up to snuff, right? Washington had covered 19.5 against everybody they played. They blasted everybody they played this year. Go on the road in the desert. I didn't want to lay the 19.5. I thought Washington would win, but I just didn't want to lay that because I didn't think they would have their best performance. And that's kind of what happened. Washington won 31-24. Arizona did score with a minute left. It was really 31-17. But and Washington didn't really hit many explosive plays. It was more grinded out drives. It wasn't really the Washington that you've seen this season. Michael Penix didn't even throw a touchdown in this game, I don't believe. Yeah, he had 360, but he didn't throw a touchdown. A big issue, 12 penalties for 125 yards. Just penalty after penalty was keeping Arizona on the field and hurting Washington's chances of scoring. And that's what really kind of kept this game in contention a little, But Washington was in control for the most part. Hopefully you didn't lay the 19.5 as this game that you want to stay away from. But we hit it overall. That puts us at 32-13 overall, so we're doing pretty good this year. But didn't do good. 1-3 against the spread. Wait, 1, 2, 3. I don't think I updated an against the spread pick this week, did I? Because I went 1-4 this week. I'm looking at it. Just want to make sure, I gotta be accurate. Gotta be Gotta be honest. I got the Syracuse wrong, Florida wrong, Georgia, and LSU. So yeah, I got 4 wrong, and I only hit 1. So 1-4, tough week against the spread for me. I gotta get it back next week, and we'll get it back. But anyways, if you like the content, please like, follow, subscribe, as I'm gonna have my YouTube handle up here in a few seconds. And we'll look to get it back. Look to tune in on Friday as I make my picks and predictions for Week 6. Thank you, and have a good day.